Hare Krishna. Narayanam namaskritya naram chaiva narottamam devim saraswatim vyasam tato jayamudirayat nastai pravesya bhadrasyu nityam bhagavata sevaya bhagavati uttamas loke bhakti bhavati naistiki. Om namo bhagavate vasudevaya. Om namo bhagavate vasudevaya. Om namo bhagavate vasudevaya. Om Gyantirmayandasya Gana Shlakaya Chakshur Emilitam Jena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasari Gaura Bhaktivinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare. Pancha Kalpa Trubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Vacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Good morning, everyone. Today we're going to be reading from chapter 5, chapter entitled The Cause of All Causes. Now, again, I did this yesterday. I did half a chapter, and the telephone had run out of batteries, so I have to do it again. I'll learn one day how to get everything prepared. This morning, just as I was moving the table to get ready, a wasp stung me here on the finger. So now I have to dip my hand in this bowl of vinegar for a while. If ever you get stung by a wasp, put your hand in vinegar and then it goes. So let's read from text 4 onwards. So this is Narada Muni speaking. He says to his father Brahma, "My dear Brahma, what is the source of your knowledge? Under whose protection are you standing? And under whom are you working? What is your real position? Do you alone create all entities with material elements by your personal energy?" So Narada knows that his father creates the material bodies, but here he's wondering, does he actually give life to everyone? Is he the person who injects the soul? Modern science is trying to make life out of machines. Do they seriously think they can inject life into a thing that's not living? Or will they take the option of taking a person's life and putting them into a virtual reality machine and then linking that machine with some kind of robot? I don't know, what you call it, a cyborg, I don't know what you would call it. Anyway, and then that remotely acts in another place. That's the best they can do, so they're going to attempt that in the near future. Anyway, Narad's here asking, is there anyone else, Father? Is there anyone who you're working under? Text 5. As the spider very easily creates the network of its cobweb and manifests its power of creation without being defeated by others, so also you yourself, by employment of your self-sufficient energy, create without any other's help. Yes, Brahma was first. Brahma is both male and female, so there was no Brahma's wife in the beginning. Text 6. Whatever we can understand by the nomenclature, the characteristics, the features of a particular thing, superior, inferior, or equal, eternal or temporary, is not created from any source other than that of your Lordship. Thou art so great. So we understand something by its characteristics, and by it's then given a name to describe the characteristics. But Brahma is the person who creates everything. So he's great. he is a very good person to give this opportunity for everyone on behalf of the Lord. And then Narad asks, yet we are moved to wonder about the existence of someone more powerful than you when we think of your great austerities in perfect discipline, although your good self is so powerful in the matter of creation. My dear Father, you know everything, and you are the controller of all. Therefore, may all that I have inquired from you be kindly instructed to me, so that I may be able to understand it as your student. So Narad's understanding that he was born from Brahma, but Brahma actually prayed, and he's informed Narad previously, obviously, that he was then empowered to create, and he just understood how to create. And so he created everything, all the bodies of different living entities, by himself. So Narad here is wondering, is there someone who gave you this power? Very straightforward. But what is nice here is that Narad's humbly inquiring as a student of Brahma. He can understand the Vedas because he's born from Brahma's intellect. But he wants to know from the master of the Vedas, the person who mastered the Vedas first, who spoke the Vedas, who's the living representative of Vedic knowledge. Text 9. Lord Brahma said, my dear boy Narad, being merciful to all, you have asked all these questions because I have been inspired to see into the prowess of the Almighty Personality of Godhead. So Lord Brahma knew that at this point the Vedas were about to be given to humanity. This brings up a very important topic to discuss. I touched on it in the beginning of yesterday's class. Now I'll mention it again. That is, yeah, and he says Narad's being merciful to all. So there was a devastation, and in that devastation all living entities died, and that devastation went up to the top of Meru. And Brahma at that time was taking a nap, and when Brahma sleeps, the waters of the universe rise up. So at this time, all living entities lost their life. So it just shows you should never sleep on an important job, because you might cause danger for others. And similarly, the devotees are in a very important position, and they mustn't be in the mode of ignorance. They mustn't sleep. So when Lord Brahma had a nap, almost everyone died. I'm not sure how many, but it appears that Narad also left his body, and this was evident by Narad's ignorance of previous creations, because this is a Chakshusha Manvantara coming up. Then there was 6, is it 6? No, there's 7 so far. So at that time there was 6, is that correct? Someone might help me in the comments. So then the actual point is not that. The actual point is that Narad has taken birth before. But now again he has to understand. So it appears that he left his body and took again another form as Narad, as the perfect consciousness of Narad. But as we're born into ignorance and must receive knowledge, so Brahma also was born into ignorance and must receive knowledge from the Lord, and Narad also was born into ignorance of some kind, and then must receive knowledge from his father. So we also are the same, and we are now receiving that same knowledge of the Vedas. So Narad's been merciful to all. So again, the Vedas are about to be spoken, and this is the the beginning of the parampara, evam para praptam. I'm not sure how much I spoke yesterday. I quoted these things, I quoted other things, many things. I don't actually know what I said, what I didn't say, when I said it, when I didn't say it, because, things merge. And I lost everything again yesterday. So please forgive me if I'm repeating myself here. But the idea is that the parampara started here. At this point, again, it started with Brahma. Then it went to Narad. Then Narad told Vyasadeva. Vyasadeva told Sukadev. Sukadev taught Sutta Goswami, who was in the audience. And then Sutta became the speaker of the Vedas, and that went on further. And we have different acharyas who then give commentaries. Then we have our Srila Prabhupada. And there are other people. It doesn't just end with Srila Prabhupada. There are many gurus speaking on Bhagavatam. And we all get to hear the same unadulterated teachings from a different perspective. And I hope that I'm giving a different perspective on the Bhagavatam by trying to help you and ask you to think of Bhagavatam in the way of Shabda Brahman, these 4 forms of Shabda, which are very important. Text 10. So, text 9, Brahma said, Narad, you've asked me all these questions because I've been inspired to see into the prowess of the personality of Godhead. So straight away he's giving the answer. And now text 10 mentioned the answer, that is, there is someone above me. It's the Supreme Lord. And he mentions Almighty. That means the one with all the power. Text 10, whatever you have spoken about me is not false, because unless and until one is aware of the personality of Godhead, who is the ultimate truth beyond me, one is sure to be illusioned by observing my powerful activities. So the personality of Godhead here is given the status of being the ultimate truth above and beyond Brahma, who is the creator of the universe. So that should be told to all atheists and all people who don't understand this matter. Please quote that sloka and tell them there is someone that is above the creators. The universe isn't running according to the laws of Lord Brahma, which are those of, if you like, physics, the underlying principles of life. Quantum physics wants to find the 4 forces within the atom, or whatever forces are there within the atom. And it wants to understand nature or reality. Text 11. I create after the Lord's creation by his personal effulgence, known as the Brahma Jyoti. Just as when the sun manifests its fire, the moon, the firmament, the influential planets and the twinkling stars also manifest their brightness. There's some editing trouble there. It doesn't make sense, the sentence. But anyway, the idea is that Lord Brahma creates in conjunction with, and it says, I create after the Lord's creation. So in other words, I create in the mood of the Lord, trying to be a servant of the Lord, helping the Lord. And how I get the power is from the Lord's Brahma Jyoti effulgence, the Brahman, which is the Lord empowering all living beings. And the Lord actually comes as time. Arjuna, in the beginning of the 11th canto, Arjuna got to see the universal form, and herein we're seeing Lord Brahma also got to see that same universal form in seed form. And then the Lord allowed Brahma to have full knowledge of creation, and Brahma then could understand everything. And Arjuna similarly could see anything he wanted from one position, whatever he wanted to see, and he's seen all the different demigods of the universe. rightly paying their obeisances to the Lord. And here it's mentioned that the sun gets its fire, its heat, etc., its radiance from the Lord, from the Brahmajyoti. So the sun is an expansion of the Supersoul in the heart, Shirodakshai Vishnu. So then the Lord is inside the sun planet as Narayana, and this sun planet is getting its power from the Brahman effulgence. And as we know, the sun diffuses its heat and light to everyone else. So then we get power. The flowers and plants and trees, they get their power from the sun, and then we eat vegetables and fruits and different nuts and things, and then we get power. The animals eat the grass, and then different living beings eat different living beings, and there's a certain food chain, so everything goes on nicely. And the moon, the influential planets, the firmament, and the stars also get brightness from the Lord, from Brahman. So they get their brightness from the sun. So the universe is dark, the sun comes along, illuminates everything, and then the moon and the stars, they absorb the power of the sunlight in a similar refrain as luminescent paint absorbs certain aspects of sun, of light, and then it reflects it in darkness. So the sun, when the sun goes to the other side of an island is round, it has two sides, a north and south. So when the sun goes south, the moon and stars come north. Not all, they're all in different positions and they move at different speeds. But they come out at night time when the sun's not here in order to give their benefit to other living entities, and in order to offer some coolingness. They actually, the moon and other stars, of course, they cool down the earth because the sun heats it up, and then they act to cool it down. It's not just the disappearance of the sun which cools things, it's also the moon which cools things. Its rays are cooling. The sun's rays are heating. There we have the masculine and feminine opposites. So the stars also, they impose their effects on people via their radiation. So this light that's spreading from the moon and from other stars, it is the radiation of that planet, and it has a certain reach. And when it reaches a person's psyche, then it affects that person. So therefore the planets of the zodiac and the different stars here and there, so many stars, so they're all having some effect on people. And it says here the firmament, which we know as the part of heaven, this is got its own brightness, the Milky Way, etc. And the influential planets. So there are other luminaries that also shine and give off light, give off radiance, and that radiance affects people, like Jupiter, for example, which is controlled by Brihaspati. Text 12, I offer my obeisances and meditate upon Lord Krishna Vasudeva, the personality of Godhead, whose invincible potency influences them, which is, in brackets here, the less intelligent class of men, to call me the supreme controller. So unless and until you've been taught that there is an authority higher, then you may be misled, just like Narad wasn't fully sure. And if Narad wasn't fully sure, and he's one of the most intelligent beings in the universe, then how could we be sure? So we would be misled. So luckily we have the Vedas and we have Brahma's own opinion here. Do you remember I said from the fourth voice? So it's important to understand we're hearing now questions and then answers. It's a similar refrain all the way. One person acts as a student, one person acts as a master, and then that master then can give the Vedic knowledge from the same the same complete Vedic knowledge from a different angle. And Narad also acts as a master at different times. Herein he's acting as a servant. Excuse me, there's another wasp, another yellow wasp here. It's going to bite me like the last one. It just landed on my foot. Excuse me, I'm a little... what to do here? It's crawling under the seat. It's already landed on my leg a second ago. I just brushed it off and it just bit my hand earlier. I must be in a certain place where these yellow wasps are. You know, they're quite big and they have a nasty sting on them. Anyway, Lord Brahma is offering his obeisances and meditating upon the Lord because he knows that the Lord is supreme and that he is not. And he also knows that via the deluding energies of Maya, which Lord Brahma was one of the persons he created the darkness, the ignorance of the living beings, which allows them to think that they're the master. So we hear Rudra's in charge of ego, and then there's this false ego, and then Brahma's creating this whole part of reality which will help you to be within that illusion. And he didn't actually like that he had to do that, but Brahma, and then we have, of course, Maya Devi, we have Durga Devi, and we have Lord Shiva as Rudra. They're all helping to incarcerate people as well as liberate people. So therefore, at one point earlier on, I mentioned that we should meet these people in the Bhagavatam as representatives of Krishna, as representative of Narayana, Vasudeva, the Vishnu expansions, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Not just as guna avatars, and other beings are not guna avatars, but we should meet all these great souls in the Bhagavatam as devotees. And this is to our benefit. This is the point that we need to understand. Text 13. The illusory energy of the Lord cannot take precedence, being ashamed of her position. But those who are bewildered by her always talk nonsense, being absorbed in thoughts of, it is I, it is mine. Now here I would like you to please excuse me a moment while I speak some harsh words. This is addressed to all scientists out there and all devotees who are scientifically inclined, but who are putting science before the teachings of Srimad Bhagavatam and the Vedic literatures. So here it said the illusory energy of the Lord cannot take precedence, being ashamed of her position. However, those who are fools and rascals, those who are less intelligent, those who take Brahma as the supreme creator, those who take the atoms as creating the world, the atomistic philosophers, those who jnanis who like to find some understanding via science, via this impersonal sunyavad science of using their knowledge to do away with God. This idea of the Big Bang theory, this whole nonsense of all these string theories and different things. Excuse me, there's another wasp come out here. So what's happened is one of these father wasps has stung me, and other ones are now coming around here. Maybe they live in this area. I'll have to go to another place tomorrow. So excuse me if I seem a little preoccupied, a little worried. So, this is the idea that material scientists, they're complete fools. But devotee scientists, Vedic scientists, etc., they have to be very, very careful not to side with material science. Sariputta unfortunately made some mistakes. Although he is a very great Vaishnava, he made some huge mistakes in siding with material science. I'm not exactly sure why he did it, and I don't really mind why he did it, why he didn't do it. But I know that that devotee was a great devotee, and he understood Srimad Bhagavatam extremely well, better than almost anyone I know. However, he did have a tendency to put material science first on occasion, and he speculated in terms of the globe concept, which simply is not, and it can never be upheld with Vedic literature. No matter how good an argument he put up, it was clashing with so many slokas, and even he himself stated quite clearly that if I put assumption A forwards, it clashes with this verse and this verse. So if I then put assumption B and make it align with these verses, it clashes with this verse, this verse, this verse. And what was his conclusion? His conclusion was further research needs to be done. In other words, from my perspective, who have studied the whole Srimad Bhagavatam hundreds and thousands of times from cover to cover, I know that this globe conception is not propounded in Srimad Bhagavatam and can never be upheld by Srimad Bhagavatam. So anyway, the material nature, the illusory energy, is ashamed of her position. But those who are bewildered by the material energy, namely top of the list scientists who are speculating in the way of atomistic philosophy and new technology, and always there's a new technology coming. I spoke yesterday, I don't know if it was recorded or not, on the only two unquestioned laws of science, but other than those two laws of thermodynamics, there is always a change in scientific law coming about every 50, 100, 200, 300, 500, every so many years. Some new finding comes out because modern technology goes further, advances, and using that technology or that brain power, whatever they want to use, they then speculate on new ways and throw out the old paradigm and bring in a new one. So there's a new, I called it a materialistic overlord, a scientific overlord steps in and says, now I've got it right, they've got it wrong. And why? It's because they're attached to the material world. They don't want to become servants of the Lord. Das Anudas, Krishna's tu Bhagavan Swayam. These concepts, shall we say, they don't want this. They always want to maintain this conception of I and mine, and this it's not going to get them back to Godhead. In fact, they're called fools. They're bewildered and they always talk nonsense. Daksha Maharaj in his Hamsaguhya prayers mentioned that all the different atomistic philosophers who put forward proposals, they simply end up arguing with each other and their theories come to incompleteness and just one contradicts another, and there's no value in them in truth because they're just speculations. Text 14. The five elementary ingredients of creation, the interaction thereof set up by eternal time, and the intuition or nature of the individual living beings are all different parts and parcels of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Vasudeva. And in truth, there is no other value in them. Yes. Everything here is meant for the Lord. everything in science, everything in the material world that we see out in the stars or through microscopes or through mathematics, everything is aimed at seeing the Lord, understanding the Lord, serving the Lord. There is no truth higher than the Lord. Everybody should just, as Narada Muni said, our education should be so that we can find the Lord and search for the Lord. So the material elements and the modes of nature, they are interacting via the adhyatmic, adidaivik, adibodhik interactions. Because of time. So we have eternal time, which is the Brahmajyoti effulgence, empowering the sun god. The sun god is then being moved, the sun planet and all the stars being moved around the central pivot of the pole star, or you may say Dhruvaloka, which Prabhupada explains is very close to the pole star. So they're being moved around this central pivot by a wind called the Dakshinaavrita wind. So this wind blows things around, and from that we may have the electromagnetic energy, and light may even come from that. The sun planet may even appear from that. But it's coming from the Lord, and then via the circumambulation of the sun and the planets around the pole star, then we're able to keep track of time. And so the every rising and setting of the sun on each different island in each part where there is a localized sun causes the death of the living entities, and that then is set at different rates on different planets. And via the death, via the process of degradation or entropy, we learn how to keep time of things, how time is passing. We learn that because when we say we are 6 years old, then it's the age that's telling us how much closer we are to death. So it's this idea of entropy pushing forwards as the arrow of time, pushing backwards as time marches forwards. That gives us an idea of time passing in the world. So all of this is only here to understand the Lord. Text 15, the Vedic literatures are made by and are meant for the Supreme Lord. Yes, this is what I was saying above, of course. The demigods are also meant for serving the Lord as parts of his body. This is the Virat Rupa understanding. The different planets are also meant for the sake of the Lord, and different sacrifices are performed just to please him. So the Lord is known as Adi Yagya. Arjuna asks about this, a question about this. He asks, I wish to understand who is the Lord of sacrifice within the heart. What is the whole process of things? And the Lord explains that I am the Adi Yagya. And also we have the boar incarnation of the Lord in the beginning of time in the Swayambhu Manvantara. And this boar incarnation then became the Lord of all sacrifices. So the spoon and the ladle are the boar's nose and tusks, and all of these fire sacrifices are meant when I don't do the fire sacrifices, but when other people do fire sacrifices, and they offer swaha, and then they offer in the name of different demigods. The great King Bharat Maharaj, he was performing sacrifices, and he understood that, yes, this sacrifice to Indra is actually to the arms of the Supreme Lord. Sorry, I've still got this sting going. I'm still putting my finger in the vinegar to stop it. It's pumping from the wasp sting. So all these demigods are different parts and parcels of the Virat Rupa, form of the Lord, and the sacrifice are meant to please the Lord. So we're being taught here. You should understand how we're being taught, because there's a repeat going on. We have to understand that the Lord is great. This is very, very important sambandha for us to get a firm footing on foundation, that we understand the Lord is topmost, and everything in the universe, including every moment of our lives, is meant to please the Lord and to serve the Lord. It's meant for Him. And when you have a very good understanding coming from all different people, this same teaching is going to come at you from all sides in the Bhagavatam. In other words, Brahma's teaching it. We've had Sukadev teaching it. Vyasadev's already taught it. In future, you're going to hear Lord Krishna teaching it. You're going to hear Bharat Maharaj, Jada Bharat teaching this. You're going to hear Nine Yogendras teaching it. There's so many teachings that are coming in Bhagavad. And Narad himself, he's a student here, but he's also going to teach this. And you're going to learn that the Supreme Lord is the person that we have to have as a central point of all of our activities. He is the reservoir of all pleasure, and He is also the central point where all services, sacrifices, austerities are meant for pleasing Him. Text 16, all different types of meditation or mysticism are meant for realizing Narayan. All austerities are aimed at achieving Narayan. Culture of transcendental knowledge is for getting a glimpse of Narayan. And ultimately, salvation is entering into the kingdom of Narayan. So this word Narayana, previously we heard the word Vasudeva. So they're interchangeable here, and Srila Prabhupada also puts the word Krishna instead of Vasudeva. So we have the Vishnu expansions, Karana, Garbha, and Shira, and these are Vishnu, and these also, although we have Shesha, Naga, who they're laying on the bed, but they're also Narayan, because Nara is the person who is laying on the transcendental ocean. The water means Nara. This is explained by Krishnadas Kaviraj in Chaitanya Charitamrita very nicely. The whole idea of Narayana is the person, Nara, who is laying on the ocean. So therefore he's called Narayana. They're all meant to please the Lord. This is the point we have to get out of this. Not that any of the things I say make any sense, and they can be jumbled up and it makes no difference. All that matters is firstly my devotion to Lord Krishna, which is fixed. And then what matters is your devotion to Lord Krishna as you hear the words that I'm speaking. And the words that I'm speaking, sometimes they're muddled up. I have to say that I'm not a very intelligent person. But that is not what's in question here. What's in question is understanding the scriptures in relation to not Sanskrit slokas or quotes or this or that, or not getting everything so perfect every time. You might get it right the second time or the third time. In my case specifically, I studied a long time ago and then spent 20 years building houses and hearing Srimad Bhagavatam, and in that time there was unlimited worries and troubles and being detached from devotees for many years. Then you don't speak, and when you don't speak you forget, and when you then try and speak, it takes some time before things come back. So there's some memory of different slokas from different places, but it's not clear after a while when you don't have it. It's different if you're giving class every day and you're understanding. Excuse me, the wasps are back. They're hanging around here. They like to terrorize me while I'm doing this Bhagavatam class. So text 16, all different types of meditation or mysticism are means for realizing Narayan. All austerities are aimed at achieving Narayan. Culture of transcendental knowledge is for getting a glimpse of Narayan, and ultimately salvation is entering into the kingdom of Narayan. So salvation is that which you are saved. So what are you saved from? You're saved from the illusion of being a competitor of the Lord. So how is that, excuse me, I'm coughing a little. How is that happening when you're a competitor and then you're saved? Well, the Lord is your Savior, and that is called your salvation. So what is the salvation? That you then understand your rightful position as a servant of the Lord. Then you can enter into the kingdom of the Lord, wherein only good people live, and wherein, this is an important point, even the demons are devotees. So even me, when I go back to the Lord's kingdom, one of the greatest demons on earth, and even me, I get to become a devotee. So, and by the way, I was born in a Yavana family, and from the West, being from the West, we don't have many good qualities or devotional qualities, and we were raised to go to Bible class on Friday evening and Sunday school for the Bible on Sunday mornings, and we were raised as Protestants to understand that the Lord is within the heart. And of course, in England, Protestants are not protesting. They go to Sunday school with Catholics and Christians, and they go to Bible class with Jehovah's Witnesses. And personally, I used to go to win the pencils. You used to get a free pencil if you could quote some references from the Bible. So I used to learn the references, and then I would speak them out loud, put my hand up, and then I would get a free pencil. So that was the attraction of going to the Jehovah's Witnesses class on a Friday evening. But all these things show that there's a spark of loving the Lord from the very beginning, but it's covered. Material nature covers everything, and then one becomes an impersonalist if one goes further down that path, and one becomes a nonsense speculator. So it's better we all pull ourselves back in line, understand that we're servants of the Supreme Lord, and we understand that everything is meant for that one final day, what Sukadev spoke in the beginning of chapter 1, where we leave material nature, we sit in meditation, concentrate on the Supreme Personality of Godhead in the heart, and then see the Lord face to face. Text 17, inspired by Him only, I discover what is already created by Him, under His vision as the all-pervading Supersoul, and I am also created by Him only. Wow, we're getting the correct understanding here by Brahma. Straightforward to his son. There's no lies going on here. Everything was created by the Lord in seed form. The Lord then empowered Brahma with knowledge of how to create. Brahma became, I know these are the, anyway, this is the first form of creation. There's karma and vikarma. And then there's this idea of Brahma then understanding what is not to be done, what is to be done, what is to be followed. How can I be a devoted servant of the Lord always? And how can I then become the secondary creator in order to please the Lord, understanding that everything comes from the Lord. Everything. There's not much more to understand except for get it firmly fixed in your heart, in your mind, that the Lord is everything to us from this point on. Our past is a past, but now everything is for the Lord. Text 18. The Supreme Lord is pure, spiritual form, transcendental to all material qualities, yet for the sake of creation, the creation of the material world and its maintenance and annihilation, he accepts through his external energy the material modes of nature called goodness, passion, and ignorance. So how does he accept this? Brahma becomes the guna avatar for the mode of passion. Vishnu is the guna avatar for maintenance, the mode of goodness. And Shiva, or Rudra, shall we say more correctly, is the guna avatar for the mode of ignorance. So the Lord is actually, he doesn't take part in the material world. You're going to learn that soon. Many devotees think, oh, the Lord will help me, or the Lord will do this, or the Lord will do that, the Lord will kill the demons. It's not true. The Lord takes no part in the material world. He's transcendental, but he does it through his energies. And we may also be termed as one of the Lord's energies. We're actually the weapons of the Lord. We're his angas and upangas. This is called the Sankirtan movement. If we don't understand that we're all made to serve the Lord in the Sankirtan movement, we've missed something great at this juncture. It's amazing to be alive at this point. And what is the point of being alive if you can't perform your devotional service to the Lord at the time when you're most needed, when the demons had taken over earth? So this is the time for us devotees to be servants, angas and upangas of the Lord, weapons and confidential companions of the Lord. So this is talking here about the creation of the material world, its maintenance and its annihilation are all done by the Lord through his expansions. Text 19. These three modes of nature being further manifested as matter, knowledge, and activities. So here we see the modes of nature, goodness, passion, and ignorance. They become matter, the material nature, the mode of ignorance, knowledge, the mode of goodness, and then they become the activities of the living entity in the mode of passion. They put the eternal transcendental living entity under conditions of cause and effect and make him responsible for such activities. So these three modes of nature, they then transfer into the material creation we see as a Mahatattva. The Mahatattva includes action. The Pradhan is different in that it's all possibilities for action, but the Mahatattva is the sum total of everything, including the action, including the knowledge of how to perform an activity, including the activities. That's why you have these guna avatars, because without them you wouldn't have this completeness of possible action. So within this Mahatattva, all possibilities of material creation are given. And we should understand that we are also within that Mahatattva. And it's possible that we can become great devotees of the Lord. Each and every one of us can become servants of the Lord and do nothing but dedicate our lives to the Lord. Otherwise, what happens? Because the Lord is transcendental to these modes. You got that? Clear. Let's be clear on that point. So what happens when you become a representative? That means you are representing the Lord as he is. So you are becoming the Lord's energy, just as the iron rod goes in fire and becomes fire, becomes hot. The whole point is you become the same spiritual energy as the Lord. You become the Lord's ambassador, emissary, and then all the material activities that you performed with your body, they're actually absorbed into the spiritual kingdom. It all comes from the Brahman. It's already been spoken, the whole Mahatattva, all Brahma's power, all Brahma created all of us, so we all go back into Brahma, if you like. Brahma becomes, and the sun planet, etc., become the sum total of all jivas, and we all merge back into that. And then after we merge back into the sum total of all jivas, we go into the Brahma, and then after the Brahma we go into the material modes, and all that's left at the very end is the three modes of nature, Durga Devi, and eventually that's retracted back. So everything in the end gets merged back into transcendence. When there's a slogan in the Bhagavad Gita that mentions that the offering is consummate, is whole, and that which is offered is of the same spiritual substance. So we have to be that same spiritual substance and offer everything to the Lord. So what I'm going to do, this is a long chapter, I'm going to read the next text and then have a little drink and maybe sort out these wasps if I can find them, put them over the wall for the ocean, they can fly around in different area, and then I'll try and give another talk, finish this chapter, so you'll see me again. Text 20, O Brahmana Narad, the seer, the transcendent Lord is, the superseer, I missed that. The superseer, the transcendent Lord. So Brahma's trying to show Narad the position of the Lord. In other words, he sees everything from his position as being above the modes of nature, transcendental to the modes of nature. He is beyond the perception of material senses of the living entities because of the above-mentioned three modes of nature. So in other words, the living entities are always within the modes of nature, therefore they are governed by the law of karma. So as everyone is within the same circle, and this first law of thermodynamics states that in the universe, no energy is ever destroyed, it only just changes its shape. Therefore, for every action, there has to be made a law. For every action, there is a reaction. And so that reaction is just to balance the scales, so that the world is not moving here and there. Within the world is moving. So that idea of reaction, the word action, and then it has re on it, so re means to do it again. So you get a second chance to perform that same action, and you get a reaction, or you get a chance to correct that action. What is the correct action? Being a servant of the Lord, where your offering to the Lord is spiritual. It's whole, it's complete. And then the spirituality will absorb everything, because this is the one complete thing. It is spiritual to start with. So the Lord is the controller of everyone, including me, says Brahma. That's how he finishes this off. So I'll read that one more time. O Narad, the superseer, the transcendent Lord, is beyond the perception of material senses of living entities, because of the above-mentioned three modes of nature, but he is the controller of everyone, including me. So the Lord is above the material senses, because the Lord is not material. So senses, the idea of being materialized is that you have something that is spiritual. So you have Brahman being the spiritual light, Brahma Jyoti, effulgence, so that's light. Then when it comes into matter, that light slows down. I mentioned previously that when you have light, the frequency of light, if you keep doubling it or you keep halving it, depending which direction you're going, up or down. So if you take light and you keep halving it, etc., you'll come down to the frequencies of sound. And when you take sound and you keep doubling that frequency, you'll come up to the frequencies of light. So, in other words, what happened is, from the Brahmajyoti effulgence, the original power or light in the universe, it slowed down till it became sound. And then from that sound, the original sound was something like this. And from spiritual sound in the mode of ignorance, the material elements and the material ingredients were formed. And from the spiritual sound and word of goodness, the demigods, or the controllers of the material nature, were formed. So you understand that this sound vibration then started to go back up towards the speed of light, you see. So then from the mode of goodness, which is the highest it reached, i.e. in the pinnacle of Brahma means, I think I've explained this, but I apologize that with the recordings being shut off, I don't know if I lost this part or not, but I'll repeat it just one more time. You have Brahman, the Brahma Jyoti. So from Brahman, the highest person is Lord Brahma. And from Brahma, the next down is called the saintly character. They're called the Brahmana. So that's okay. They're all stemming from this one thing. You have Brahman, Brahma, Brahmana. And then you have the other extrapolation of Brahminical, of the qualities, etc. So you have this light, the power entering into the universe, and the Lord then in seed form from the Om, he creates these material worlds. You remember Brahma said he creates after the Lord's creation. So the Lord creates everything in seed form, and then he gives it to Brahma in the form of the Vedas, on knowledge of how to create everything, knowledge of the sum total of the Mahatattva, not, of course, knowledge of his future life, because his life then has to have some excitement in it. So then that sound vibration, Om, then it expands forwards again. And as it expands forwards, it then creates the demigods and then the material nature, etc., etc. It becomes the sun planet, it becomes the moon, the stars, etc., etc. Everything takes place, takes its rightful place, and then it all has to, evolve in consciousness till it goes back to its original state of Brahman. Does that remind you of something? How about the life of the living entity? How about that the living entity is pure spiritual spark? Then he enters the womb of a mother through the particle of semen, etc., when the egg and semen mix, and then all of a sudden we have the child coming out, and that child has 100% of his life at the first moment of his life. From the moment he enters, time starts ticking away, and he has 1 moment less every moment that goes by. So he's coming 1 moment closer to death. But he's born in ignorance, so he's born as a personification of Rudra. That's why children destroy everything. My little son, when he was little, he used to love to stand at the table and throw things down and see them smash, because they have to see what happens. Their brains are calculating, finding out what would happen if I do this, what would happen if I do that. So in the beginning, we're in a mode of ignorance, all of us as children, and then there's a trade-off, our life for knowledge. And then you get to a certain point of trade-off, and you say, well, now I'm a doctor, I'm a lawyer, I've got a house, I've got a car, I've got a wife and kids and all the rest of it. But I want something more. So you've got this to this pinnacle of your life. You're like the Indra of your own life. And then you say, no, I want something more. I want to become a devotee. And Indra too, I mentioned to you, he bangs his head on the golden land because he has to go further. So what does he have to do? He has to shed his material body. His body has to die. Bhakti Tirtha Swami, a great soul, always was very fond of saying, die before dying. And we also have the concept of being Brahmana initiated. In other words, one life is gone and another one is born. So what happens at this time that this doctor or lawyer or whatever has reached the pinnacle of his Indra-like lifestyle? So then he has to become a devotee. So this person then gets a whole new lease of life, and he begins to serve others. He begins to serve the Lord, and he realizes he's very small, not very big. And at that point, then his ideas of expansion from this childhood in the mode of ignorance, then they take on another dimension. And do you remember I said that's how the universe is created? So we have the 7 islands of Pushkara Dweep. As I explain further and further, it'll all fall into place. But the islands expand out over, and the bodies get larger and larger. And then what happens at one point, they bang their head. And Indra, he's become 500 feet tall, the largest, most powerful being in the universe. Until a demon comes along like Bali or Hiranyakashipu, etc. So anyway, let's just take this one idea and go further. Then when he wants to go further, he has to become humble. He has to become a devotee. He has to shed his body. So similarly, the person who's reached the pinnacle of their life, like we all did when we were a certain age, then we said, no, we really sincerely want to be devotees of Krishna. We take up the vow of chanting Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Ram, Ram Rama, Hare Hare, and begging the Lord to be please engaged in the Lord's service, not in our service. We beg the Lord to have our speaking chest to Him, speak about His glories, not about ours. So then you enter into the other dimension. And this other dimension I mentioned to you, there's only 2 dimensions. Not what Sariputta said about 8 dimensions on Jambu Dweep, all the rest of it. Jambu Dweep is an earthly abode. It's not although it can be a heavenly place, it's not a heavenly abode. They fall from Meru, which is a heavenly abode. That's Satyaloka. Then they come to the earthly realm of Jambu, which is on the flat continuum called Bhumandala. So we have all the islands, 7 islands, and then we have going upwards, we have the planets that will go up in Bhuvaloka, up to the sun planet and the moon planet. So we have the moon planet, then the sun planet, and the moon is for, it said Soma Ras, that means enjoyment. The idea of Soma means you want heavenly enjoyment. Then you have the moon planet, maybe the sun planet, maybe they have enjoyment mixed with something else as well. Maybe one is mixed with water-like taste, a feminine, one's maybe mixed with a fire-like, masculine taste. Maybe one's the mind, one's the intellect, but there's a slight difference in heavenly tastes going on. But what's above that? It's been explained already. You go to the pole star, then you make the Shushumna, the path of the Milky Way. What is this path? This is the path to Mahajana, Tapa, and Satyaloka. These are within the atom, within the heart. Therefore, only the yogi goes beyond this. It's all been explained up to this point already. And it'll be explained further and further in the 5th canto. And if the Lord allows me, if the Lord's pleased and He'll allow me to keep talking, I'll explain everything step by step for you. So this is what happens when we decide to be a servant of the Lord. We then become qualified to go to Mahajana, Tapa, and Satya. We get qualified if we want to go in the Kamakanda to the moon planet, to Indra's abode, to Chandra's abode, wherever we want. It doesn't matter. We can go to all these places, but we can go to Lord Brahma's abode. It's no problem. It's already been explained that these things are no problem. But we can also go to Lord Krishna's abode if we just simply become servants of the Lord. So that's what happens in a trade-off for your life. Your time marches forwards, entropy marches backwards, destroying your time, but in the interim, you can get knowledge. When you get that knowledge, you get what's called Sukriti, pious credits. With that Sukriti, you can buy something. It's called Bhakti-Unmukhi. You can have some good fortune to come across a devotee. Then you can use that good fortune to then buy a Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam, whatever, and then you can donate, you can give in charity, dana, and you can then become, how would you say, use your good fortune to become a devotee and actually take birth, actually take real birth, take Brahman initiation and take real birth. And by the way, just being a Brahman doesn't mean you wear thread. I have no thread. Bhaktivinoda Thakur wasn't so keen on this this hierarchy, this Brahmana family, etc. So what is the need for a Brahminical thread? Who's a Brahman in this age? We're all Kalu Sudra, Samandya, is it? We're all born of Sudra mothers. So I'll leave it there, and I'll begin again from text 21. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Srila Vedavyasa ki jai, Srila Lord Brahma ki jai, Sri Narada ki jai. Gaur Premanandi.